Good morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, and this is Bodywise Bodywork coming to you live on Facebook. It's Tuesday Tip Day. I'm very excited that you're joining me today. And today we're going to discuss where painful symptoms come from and will I get the same chronic pain or symptom that Aunt Sophie had or has currently. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg. Bodywise Bodywork is designed to move your body, free your mind, and elevate your spirit. And this is the first full week of December. Is it the first full week? It is the first full week of December. And happy holidays to you. We discussed what's on my bathroom floor last time. Excuse me, my throat's a little froggy. And why what's on my bathroom floor is actually my responsibility, even though someone else put those items there. Thanks for joining me, Bob. Happy holidays to you. And why what's on my bathroom floor, even though those items were put on the floor by someone else, why that's a reflection of myself and the way that I think currently. I recommended a book by Louise Hay not long ago. Before we get into this week's content, I would like to ask you if you've chosen a theme for 2017. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, and 2017 is sure to be a fantastic year if you choose to make it so. For 2016, my theme was about truth and innovation, and lots of changes have happened as I look back on the year. And I'm excited to set a theme for 2017. If you have a theme, please share it with me in the comments. I would love to find out what your theme is. If you don't have a theme, consider getting one. Your year is what you make of it. I have a spout about, for those who happen to watch the hummingbird video that I posted. I did a hummingbird in slow motion, and it's really phenomenal to watch how they use their tail to maneuver their position. There was a brief discussion about the water to sugar ratio, and I would just like to assure you that hummingbird health is actually thriving from what I can see. And the sugar to water ratio can be anywhere from 3 to 5 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water. Is that what I meant to say? Yeah, 3 to 5. Isn't that amazing? 4 to 1. Actually, that's water to sugar. So 3 cups of water to 1 cup of sugar, 4 cups of water, or 5 cups of water. They won't get diabetes. There is a forum about hummingbirds, and there are a lot of people on that forum who are afraid of injuring the hummingbirds. So know that cane sugar is the right thing to use. And too much sugar probably won't give them diabetes. If it's in the middle of the summer, too much sugar may not allow them to get enough water. And not enough sugar in the winter will cause them to have to pee more, and then they won't have enough fuel to get back to the feeder. So actually a more concentrated sugar mixture is better for them in the winter, because then they have to make fewer trips and they don't actually need as much water. Isn't that amazing? So their kidneys won't fail. They will not get something called bill rot in their beak, which there was a fear of. Isn't that interesting? And let's see. A huge thanks to all those who have taken me up on my offer for a life purpose discussion. It takes about 20 minutes, maybe 25. And I've had some amazing conversations. People are beginning to understand their life purpose. They're finding out what their purpose is here on the earth, which is making it easier for them to make choices, and it's making it easier for them to live well and feel better. If you'd like to be one of those happy people who are understanding their life purpose, feel free to give me a personal message and we'll set up a time to discuss it with you. If you're a current client of mine, you've received an RSVP for an event happening December 17th. I'm sorry, you haven't received an RSVP. you've received an invitation and I would like you to RSVP and let me know if you're coming. If you can't make it on December 17th, that's not a problem. The winery where the event will take place is having several things on Saturdays between now and the holidays. So you're welcome to go and find out the festivities happening there. They've got great music, of course, great wine. But if you are a current client of mine, please let me know if you're coming, because I want to be prepared for you to be there. Today's discussion, have you heard the statement, the problem is not the problem, is that how it goes? The problem you have is not actually the problem, but it's the way you think about the problem that is the problem with the problem. Or in other words, I've heard it said this way also, you cannot melt water at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So the truth is, if you are in a cold environment and you choose to melt water, you use energy in order to melt that water. If you withdraw the energy used to melt that water, it then refreezes. So you actually haven't solved the problem of your frozen water by adding lots of energy to it. So at the level of 32 degrees, melting water is a short-term effect. And if you have a chronic pain like Aunt Sophie, addressing that chronic pain from the same perspective and the same point of view that created that problem will not actually solve the problem. Fascinating news for those of you who have trouble. Just like me, I have chronic inflammation and other difficulties in my body, like a history of sciatica on my right side. This is also fascinating. I herniated a disc when my youngest was about 1. And I recommended that you listen to or read a book by Louise Hay called Heal Your Life. I was fascinated to discover that when I herniated my disc, Louise had something to say about that. When it comes to herniations, let's see, Louise says, where is it on my list here? Oh, I don't have it. Bummer. Herniations have to do with not feeling supported. And when my son was young, I was managing a lot, and of course, with a baby, there are a lot more responsibilities regarding diaper changes and nursing and lots of things happening. So I was trying to manage my business, my family, my marriage, and a baby, and I herniated a disc, which is now much, much better. I've chosen to heal myself, but understand that chronic symptoms and chronic problems don't have to be chronic and can be resolved, and it takes a different way of thinking and a different way of acting in order to resolve those problems. A lot of clients recently have been mentioning how they feel punished for the symptoms that they've been experiencing. Kind of like Job, if you recall, Job from the Old Testament went through a lot of problems. He had things taken away, his family taken away, his body was diseased. And in every case, the story goes that he actually gave thanks to God and didn't turn away from him, even when his wife recommended that she do that. He was able to look beyond and outside the problem from the level of the problem, even though it was so real at that point in time. It was so in his face because he lost everything. The outcome of that story is that because he did not deny the truth, he was able to recuperate all of those things, his health, his family, and all of the riches that he had, and actually multiplied those riches. So if you're beginning to wonder if God is punishing you, I would love for you to take a look at that line of thinking and do some research into what the feelings are and what the stories are behind those thoughts, because it's thoughts that are created out of what we believe, and the kinds of things that we were taught growing up are what become our beliefs. And of course, many beliefs put together become a paradigm. And so if we're having a problem, a symptom, some sort of disease in our lives, there is something underlying that you can look at to find out what the cause is much more deeply than just what you're seeing and feeling in your body. I'll give you a great example because I have a history of intestinal inflammation. I mentioned in one of the live broadcasts that intestinal inflammation I was experiencing, which included some bloating and discomfort and lack of motility in my body from eating, is actually considered the precursor for nearly every disease that you can get that has been documented. So diseases such as diabetes, ulcerative colitis, cardiovascular disease has come from initially a certain amount of inflammation in the body, and I tend to have and live with that chronic inflammation. I was recently on vacation and I found the solution to my chronic inflammation. Of all situations I could have been in, I never would have guessed that it was on vacation that I discovered the source. So let me give you hope that you can find the source of the trouble that you're experiencing. And I'd like to tell you the story about being on vacation and having found the solution to my symptoms. We flew back east. I'm currently outside of Seattle, and our family is on the East Coast. So there were a lot of busy things going on in order to pack for myself and my two children, make sure my clients were taken care of, and that the business was things that needed to be canceled were canceled, and emails were sent properly. And so it was very busy, and busier than normal before my vacation. On vacation, we were in the foothills of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where there's not good cell reception. So I was not able to spend a lot of time on the internet because it was iffy whether or not I'd be able to stay connected and stay connected well. So I chose to unplug, and my children didn't have to race off to school. We didn't really have any deadlines, timelines, and things were really much more fluid. Also, someone else was cooking for me, and I did some cooking, but the truth is that a lot of my normal responsibilities I did not have to take care of. I did not need to take responsibility for those. So in essence, I was unplugged from lots of roles that I play. Roles that I play as a mother, roles that I play as a wife, and roles that I play as an entrepreneur in my business. And after 2 days of being entirely unplugged, my chronic inflammation decreased dramatically, as if it wasn't there and had never been a problem. And at first I thought it was the great water that we were drinking, because the water at my mother-in-law's is directly from a well, and they UV light it in order to prevent any bacterial growth in it. So I thought, wow, it's the water. So when I get home, I was making a plan for how I could change the water I was drinking. And as you know, I had been drinking Kangen water for several weeks and noticed amazing differences with that water, but I thought I needed to do something more about the water I was drinking. Then I thought it was turmeric tea that I had been consuming that was the cause of the changes. Because when I went to my mother does not have great well water. She's just on regular old city water. But my symptoms did not return drinking that other water. So I didn't understand, how is it possible, if I'm looking at the water I'm drinking, that I could still maintain my decreased inflammation and much more vibrant health. I didn't understand it, and that's why I thought it was turmeric. When I came back into town, we flew in, landed, we walked in our front door at 10 p.m. at night, so it was a very long day of flying. We went straight to bed. I barely unpacked anything. The next morning, we were up and racing again. The kids were off to school. I had business and clients, and everything was back to the way it was. And what I noticed immediately was that my chronic inflammation returned. And all I did was go to sleep, wake up, and jump right back into my own personal rat race. My own personal rat race being my own personal thoughts about what I needed to do and how I needed to accomplish it. And that made me realize that my chronic inflammation that I experienced, that is the precursor to all other diseases that are documented in the medical books, is actually due to what I think and what I feel about my responsibilities and how I need to fulfill them and trying to balance them. So for the last month, I have been focused and diligent about changing the way I think about my responsibilities and being less frantic, being less stressed, and the benefits are just remarkable. So I encourage you to find out what you feel stressed about. And I didn't even think I was a stressed person. I just thought I was living my life. But just to give you some real clarity on what I was trying to manage, it was what I felt I was responsible for in the major roles in my life, and the major roles being my role as a wife, as a mother, as taking care of the person who cares for my home, and a business owner. And it seemed that those four roles were in conflict with each other. How could I clean my house if I needed to be a mother? How could I be a mother if I needed to work in my business? How could I sustain and maintain my wonderful marriage with all of those things happening? So it was inside my own head that I was in conflict with those roles, even though those roles are a part of my life, and I love every one of them, and I accept them willfully and knowingly that there are responsibilities with those roles. So I thought it was the turmeric tea. I thought it was the water. I even experimented with a variety of food and found that it was not the food that was contributing to my chronic problems. Interestingly enough, I have spent so much time looking for an external cause of my inflammation that I have prevented myself from living well. I've stopped eating a whole variety of foods because I thought they were the things that were making me experience chronic inflammation, when in actuality it wasn't what was happening outside me. So I encourage you to look inside yourself to discover what it is that is contributing to a symptom or a pain that you have, because it will be amazing when you discover it. If you need help with that, if you need help finding your life purpose, please feel free to contact me, give me a personal message, and I will gladly set up a telephone conversation with you about 20 to 25 minutes to help you discover what it is that is preventing you from living your fullest, most divine, wonderful life that you deserve, because nobody should live with disease. And you especially, me especially, and I've actually been able to change my life dramatically because of what I discovered, interestingly, on vacation. A few other things I want to share with you. There are things in our lives that represent specific aspects of how we think. My family is, and I always thought it was genetic, known for falling asleep, and so this is very embarrassing, especially on an airplane, falling asleep with our mouths open. My dad did it, I do it, my youngest does it. And this book that I recommended, of course there's subsequent snoring that happens with that. This book that I recommended by Louise Hay suggests that snoring has a cause that is not just about your nasal passage or your ability to breathe, but she says that it's a stubborn refusal to let go of old patterns. old patterns of thinking, old patterns of belief, old patterns of habitual behavior. So I am changing my old patterns and creating new patterns for myself, and I'll let you know if my habitual snoring stops in light of those shifts. Thanks so much for joining me. I would just like to encourage you to live head-wise, feel heart-wise, and move body-wise. Until Friday when I see you again, take good care and happy holidays.